What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers Without Filters podcast, episode 167. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight I'm drinking a new brew. We got Upland Brewing's Bad Elmer's Porter. We
Ooh.
have a disgruntled, I was going to say miner, but there's no mining in Indiana. I don't know what this dude's doing, but, it says it's dark to be smooth. I don't know. I went to the liquor store tonight. I'm like, I wanted something a little desserty, a little darker, a little chocolatey, so that's what I went with.
All right. I'm Joseph, and I have the Castle Danger Ode IPA.
Ah.
Nice.
Classic Castle Danger can art. Pretty good.
Is it? I can't remember. Is Castle Danger a Minnesota brewery?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's up near Duluth, near Duluth.
north of Duluth.
Okay. By the way,
Murray or Lutzen or something.
I found
Yeah.
something out this last week about breweries that I need to tell you guys after we get through the introduction because it blew my freaking mind. But
Okay.
anyway.
Okay. I'm Gabe, and I'm drinking Indeed's Brewing Company's Flavor Wave IPA. It's the
Nice.
same six-pack I had like a month ago. I don't know. Been
Nice.
keeping it. So
All right.
Yeah, it's Dayton. Drinking some Pigeon Hill Shifting Hands Classic IPA. It's an IPA.
Is that like a Mario style
Yeah,
can art?
yeah, you can kind of see it on.
That looks a little too close. That looks like maybe a copyright infringement.
Yeah, it's definitely a copyright.
They're small enough. They're small enough
Yeah.
to where they can get away with it.
I don't know. Nintendo fucking goes after people. Keep their head on a swivel.
They'll see the VOD. They'll see the VOD on Twitch. They'll just be like, "All right, we're going after these fucks in West Michigan."
If we ever stream a Nintendo game, they're gonna like have our ass immediately.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Engineers Without Filters podcast, where every other week, the four of us to get together and talk about something that's on our minds. As I just said, right now we're on a bi-weekly schedule, and on the off weeks, we'll be streaming on our Twitch channel some gaming. So that'll be at twitch.tv/EWF_podcast on Thursday nights if you want to catch that. But links to all that stuff is in the description below. If you like our show, tell your friends about it. We're on podcast services, we're on YouTube, and we post on Mondays. But let's get into the weekly recaps. Before that, I got to my brewery thing. So, okay, I was at a bar the other night, and they had Left Hand Nitro Stout, or the milk stout, which is one of my favorites. You guys all know it. Tastes like chocolate milk, and I'm a big fan. And I was with a friend, and he had never heard of it. I'm like, yeah, you got to try it sometime, And I was like, yeah, it's called Left Hand Brewing because, it's in Michigan, and everyone in Michigan uses their left hand to, show where they live in the state,
Mm-hmm.
And I was with someone else, like, it's not a Michigan brewery. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, it is. That's the left hand thing with the Michigan. And we looked at it, it's in fucking Colorado.
Yeah.
I was like, what? My mind, I could not believe it. I'm like, because I saw it the first time in Michigan at Tech, and everyone does the
probably
hand
thinking
thing.
An upper hand.
Yeah.
You're thinking an upper hand.
Hand Brewery.
You're probably right, but
Yeah.
but also I don't know, yeah, the left hand thing. I was shook. I was couldn't talk for 2 minutes. I was I was so confident that Left Hand Brewing was in Michigan. And
See, it's because you're not a true Michigander. That's why.
Yeah. Well, because do you guys use your left hand or your right hand?
I use my right hand.
Right hand. Your
Right
left hand
hand.
makes the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that still kind of works for if we were in the UP. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was confident. I was fucking wrong.
Whatever mental gymnastics you need to do,
Yeah.
Jacob.
To justify your actions.
But yeah, let's get into our weekly recap. Gabe, how was your last couple weeks here?
I guess. Oh man, I forgot it would be 2 weeks of the game stream.
Mm-hmm.
Not a ton. I've been doing a lot of snowboarding. I got a bunch of new snowboard gear, so I'm pretty excited about that. Got a brand new jacket, new snowboard boots, and a helmet. Some of that stuff I hadn't switched out since high school, so nice to get that stuff. And I'm on a 4-day week this week. Tomorrow I head up to Duluth, do some snowboarding, and then I'll head up to Lutzen for another couple days. So be pretty fun. So
you gonna do some
get
St.
it in
Patty's Day
before it all
shenanigans?
melts. I have no idea. I think we're staying at like a pretty normal hotel, so I don't think it's gonna get rowdy or anything. But who knows? Maybe the resort will be doing some crazy things. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that's pretty much it for me.
Joseph, how you doing?
Doing well. Well, Jacob, you know this, but we signed a new lease. Jacob,
Oh.
Alyssa, and I. So the three of us will be moving in together when this lease is up in May.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's exciting.
So it's pretty close. It's actually on the opposite for Gabe. It's the opposite side of Broadway from the house.
It's closer to our old place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right next to a park, which is pretty nice.
Yeah,
That
it's
would
like
be
right across
nice.
the street from one.
We'll be closer to Head Flyer Brewing.
Nice.
yeah.
Walking distance there, which will be nice. So that's exciting. And it's actually the same landlord that I have right now, which makes things pretty convenient.
It was it made things so much easier. He gave us a screaming deal, which was like insane.
So that'll be nice. Alyssa and I were at a brewery. Was it Monday evening? We walked to Indeed, and we're sitting down, and a couple guys walk in, whatever, and I'm like, that looks like one of my old coworkers. Oh, that's weird. I haven't seen him in 2 years. I'm like, probably not though. Whatever. And I'm like, oh, that is my old coworker. That's kind of awkward, And then he sits down right next to us. And I'm like, do I say something? And I was like, hey, man. And he's like, oh, Joseph. And I was like, hey, how's it going? And we talked for a little bit. But I was like, I haven't talked to anyone from my old job since I left. It's weird. And I don't know, Jacob, this is one of the coworkers that you did not like that I would talk about.
Okay, yeah.
Specifically.
Gotcha.
So, and I don't know, he's a brewery engineer.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like not necessarily my vibe. It was kind of fun to talk to him, and because he kind of had some info of the company since I left.
Yeah, some hot goss.
Yeah. He had left too about a year ago, he said. So, but yeah, other than that, that's about it.
All right. Love it. Dayton, what do you got going
on? Went up to our camp with my dad and my uncle and brother-in-law.
Ooh.
That was pretty fun. Just went up there for a quick overnighter. Celebrated my mom's birthday.
Nice.
So we made some Korean barbecue and some like egg rolls and crab rangoons and stuff like that. We got her a really nice rice cooker for her birthday.
Like the one that sings to you, like the one you have?
I'm not sure if it sings to you or not. I don't know. We didn't use it because my mom didn't know that she was getting a rice cooker, and I brought mine down because she asked me to, and I wasn't planning on using it, right? I thought that we were gonna open up hers and then use that, and then she'd be like, "Oh, why'd you bring your rice cooker?" And I was gonna be like, "Gotcha." But yeah, so we ended up using mine instead of hers. So I don't know actually.
Okay.
What else have I done? This week I've been doing 1 rep max testing for weightlifting. That's been pretty fun.
Getting swole.
Not really getting swole, just seeing how swole I've gotten.
Measuring the thickness.
Trying
to figure out how many C's.
Yep, exactly. And then, this week I went to 2 city council meetings, which I don't know, like it's I don't know what's gotten into me, but I just find it so fascinating now. I don't know if it's like me like degrading into like a townie or what, like, but I'm planning on going to like all the city council meetings from like here on out. And I honestly think it's just because I'm kind of nosy and I like want to know what's going on in the city.
I mean, it's a good like people always say like if you want to give all politics the biggest impact you can make is in your local city.
Yeah. And so like I've literally like read like all their like meeting minutes and like all like these like project reports and stuff that they've like posted for the last like 6 months or so. I've read all the local ordinances. I've read our local charter. I have just been devouring this information, dude. I don't know what has gotten into me. It's
Do you
just,
think like 20-year-old you is like impressed or disgusted right now?
dude, well, I don't know, cuz like when I was in college, I took a cities class.
Wasn't that city planning?
Mhm.
Or was it
There's something similar to that. Yeah, it was evolution of
Yeah.
cities, and that involved a lot of
That's what it was. Yeah.
planning aspects. I don't know. I don't think 20-year-old me would be that surprised by it. But yeah, I don't know. Like there's just a lot of really cool projects going down here. Like they're gonna put the big busy road that's like 2 lanes that gets cut down into one when it goes through like downtown. Their Michigan DOT is gonna put it on a road diet. They called it. So they're essentially gonna like cut down the lanes to like 1 lane for like a section of time and like measure the impacts of it. And I don't like it. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's gonna be happening this summer.
Have you encountered any like crazy people or more people on an extreme people that are come in and say a lot of shit and yell at people, or is that not happening?
No, the two that I've been in have been very low key. I guess they just had like a big like solar debate, which I missed because that was like the meeting like before I had like started going. And I don't know. There's also going to be a drag show on April 8th here, and they were like talking about it like before the meeting started, which is how I heard about it. And I don't know, like I think that's gonna drum up some crazies.
Yeah, might be some safety concerns possibly.
It's pretty big in the news.
But I'm planning on going, and I'm gonna take my camera and I'm gonna take pictures and stuff like that. Maybe I'll get some crazy people doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah. My good friend Lissa here goes to all the city council meetings, and she actually got quoted in the local newspaper because she was asking some questions like the mayor and stuff. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, she's seen some crazy shit with like a lot of anti-maskers a couple years ago. Just like, and she was telling me like some parents like forced like brought their kids up on stage and forced the kid to say like they didn't like masks and shit like that to try to like appeal to the board. Like, yeah, there's some absolute insane
there's
behavior.
Always crazy clips on the internet of like random crazy city council member like speeches and stuff.
Yeah. So you might get something.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm still like feeling out like what everybody's like personality is. It seems like our mayor is he's very open-minded and pragmatic, and I like that. But the other people haven't really talked that much, so the feelers are still out.
Sure. All right, cool. All right. Didn't expect that. I have got it.
I didn't really expect it either, and I'm also planning on getting a whole bunch of local history books too, so I can like, I don't know, become more educated.
Okay, you might become a know-it-all though in these meetings. Yeah. That might be, be problematic.
Hey, I don't know.
Oh, this guy again.
Hey, I haven't spoken yet in the meetings because I'm understanding the flow. Yep. And because the last thing that I want to do is to commit a faux pas, Sure. That would just be absolutely devastating to a new guy in the community.
I was imagining that having like a vote about like, I don't know, putting in like some bridge, and then you walk up there like, actually in 1877 in this town we did, it's like, all right.
That's not the purpose of me reading the history books. I want to understand the historical issues that we have faced. And also just because I want to know more about like what the Native Americans were like in the area and like that. So,
all right, cool. My recap is combined with my topic, so I'm just gonna get into the whole rigmarole here.
All right.
All right. So here's the scenario, listeners out there. I kind of hinted at some things during the Year Compass episode, and I'm now finally ready to make the announcement. As of last Friday, I have officially dropped out of grad school. It's over. We're done. Joseph is celebrating and yeah, it was not happening. It was not going well. I kind of want to break down kind of a lot of it for people who are listening that might also be wondering about like doing a similar thing or are in a similar situation, or maybe are in grad school or thinking about going to grad school. So basically, I can't remember how much I said in the podcast. It was weird because we were monthly, last year, but
Mhm.
For a while, probably like over about a year and a half, like the last year and a half, things have not been going great. Wasn't any issues with like my boss or my coworkers or like the environment. It just felt like very much like a me issue. Like I am not fitting in here. My skill set is not suited for this. I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing. Because of all that, it was really hard for me to motivate myself to actually get work done, because it's a very self-motivated environment. Like you're kind of expected to like, here's your research, work on it, and you can check in with your boss and your coworkers every week or so. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to get the work done. No one's really breathing down. At least this is my lab, I should say, my lab environment. No one was breathing down my neck, at deadlines of like, you got to get this done by this time, And on the one hand, I was like very thankful for that because I have friends and have heard of other labs where your boss is just like assholes or just very demanding and unreasonable and stuff. And I didn't have any of that, which was nice. But I think the lack of structure did hurt me a little bit, especially when the thing I was doing I wasn't super interested in. And if you guys remember, I switched from PhD down to a master's. That was last fall or 2 falls ago, something like that. Because I realized like none of the jobs that become available when you're a PhD I wanted to have. Like when I was coming into grad school, I thought, oh, I'm gonna get a PhD and then be a professor, and it'll be great, because I could teach and do. I think I'd be good at that, having no experience doing anything similar. And I got here and I saw a professor up close, my boss, and other ones, and I'm like, I don't want to do any of that shit because like it's so stressful because you have to write grant proposals, right, and submit them to the government essentially, and be like, hey, give me money to do research, and they might say yes, and they might say no, and if they say no, then you got to just keep writing proposals until you get funding. And that whole process, it gave me a ton of anxiety because I don't feel like I am one to come up with sciencey questions. I'm more just like good at doing science class, and I thought like my undergrad skills would transfer well to grad school. So yeah, so I'm like, I don't want to be a professor. Industry doesn't really appeal to me. I was in the nutrition science program, and when we talk about industry's kind of more food sciencey and can just be more. And I'm not saying every company's like this, but you get when I think of companies like that, I think of like General Mills, right? And they're just trying to make different coatings they're going to put in your Honey Nut Cheerios, and they're focus on nutrition somewhat, but also focus on taste and like marketability, and it's at the end of the day, these are all corporations that are trying to make money, and you need people in there that do want to advocate for nutrition and stuff, but it just seemed like an uphill battle that I didn't personally want to go down. And then there's like government research and like nonprofits, which like, nonprofits are the only one I was like kind of interested in, but you hear a lot of stories about nonprofits that they kind of exploit people's, good nature. And there's just kind of some weird stuff there. So anyway, I basically like, PhD, not for me. All right. This is not, I'm scared about doing a prelim exam, which is like the test you have to take to become like an actual candidate. And it's 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I'm like, I feel like I'm going too slow already. Let's just do masters. So I went down to masters, and my research was focused on basically studying bacteria and like studying their metabolism. And there was 2 kind of sides of that. One of it was growing them in the lab and doing tests on them, and the other side was simulating them in a computational environment, right? And those are it was pretty half and half. But I was just having so many issues with contamination in the lab where I just could not get them to grow without them getting contaminated, and I was losing my goddamn mind. We cut that part of the project too. I was telling my boss, I'm like, I'm gonna drop out if I have to, do this part because it's not working. He's like, okay, let's just try doing the computational stuff and see how that goes, and we can check in. So that was last November was when we decided not only am I doing masters, but I'm also cutting that to just the computational stuff. I'm like, great, I can do that. and then November and December went, and it still wasn't happening. I just couldn't get motivated. I just didn't really care about what I was doing enough. I didn't have the curiosity. I went home for break, and I talked to Joseph and about it. Talked to some of my friends here at Minnesota. I talked to my friends here as well, and then talked to my family and kind of told them that I'm thinking about dropping out. Like I don't want this degree. I'm not sure I'm going to use it. And it's if I do stay, it's going to be a absolute just insane toll on my mental health to get this done. And is that worth the possible rewards of maybe more money, maybe more access to certain jobs that I might not even want, right? Like, we kind of did the calculus there, and basically after talking to a few people, we decided like, okay, I'll stay in for a few more weeks, try a few other things, and see if it gets any better. And gave it one more honest try, and it just wasn't happening. So I talked to my boss, and I was like, hey, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I'm not going to get this done. So let's just agree to let's just end it. And I'm very thankful that he's a very supportive person and just wants the best like for his students. And he was very supportive, and we were able to figure out a way for me to part gracefully. I just had to kind of put all of my research together and hand it off to the next person. So I did that last week. But yeah, like it was it was easy and hard at the same time. Like it was easy in the fact that like I was not having a good time. I want this to be over. So like the fact that we can just end it and be done is great. But it's also frustrating to be like, this is a thing that I set out to do, and I'm not gonna do it. Like I'm not gonna finish it, and this is not the thing I can really go back to. Like once you leave, like it's I'm not gonna go back and finish. And will I regret this? Will this impact me negatively in the future? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I've been thinking about this for months and months and months and months, and talked to a lot of people about it. And it's like, this is what's best for me. So I'm moving on to a new chapter now, and there are other parts of this I want to bring in as well as we progress in this podcast. But as far as like what's been going on recently, my current kind of plan is, so as Joseph mentioned, I'll be moving in with him and Alyssa at the end of May, which is very exciting. So I'll be leaving Indiana, going back to Minnesota. Until then, I'm just trying to find like a part-time job to just have some income in the meantime. And like, I've been applying to every freaking job under the sun. I've applied to like 10, 11 jobs here, and I've applied to some weird stuff. I'm still waiting to hear back on a lot and trying to figure out. But like today, I applied to hand out free samples at Target. Pays $15 an hour, and I'm like, I'll fucking do that. That's great. I applied. Okay, I need to talk about this. I think it's very sketchy. I just need your guys' take on it because I don't know how I feel about it. I applied to a job this morning. All right, it was a brand new posting. Not a lot of info, and the company's like Retail Price Solutions or something like that. I'm like, okay, and they're marketing towards like retired people and students. I'm like, okay, and they're like, it's a great way to like make extra money, like flexible schedule. And the job was like price. What was it? It was price something agent, price integrity agent. That's what it was. And I'm like, what the fuck is this job? And it's like it pays like it's like $12 to $18 an hour. And I'm like, I'm trying to get around 15, so okay. And it was easy application, whatever. All right, fine, I'll apply to it. They emailed me back today, and they're like, hey, want to set up an interview? Pick a time in this calendar, and here are some videos that we're going to talk about. But they kind of show what the job is. Okay. So the first job is like, or the first video is just like, we're this company, and we, make sure that prices are they're what there should be and stuff. I'm like, and like when you start out, we'll pay you this much, and then over time you'll get more. It's like, okay. The second two videos are testimonials from people who work for this company. And now and this is where I finally figure out what this company does or what this job is. The job is they give you, like when you're at a Target and you see workers, they have like those scanners that like scan the price and they can like maybe adjust or something, look up inventory. They give you one of those. Okay. Like this is third party. This is not, you don't work for a store or work for Walmart. This is like a separate company. They give you one of these and you go in and you just like scan items and get their prices, but like the store does not approve or know about this. Like the testimonial I saw with this woman being like, yeah, it's cool. I feel like the secret agent going in and getting the prices and stuff. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, and they claim it's like, oh, it's to help consumers because we keep track of price and make sure like stores are like charging what they should for things. But I'm like, so you want me to like go into stores and just scan a bunch of shit and then leave and give you the data? Like, I don't know, man, dude. It
Can't
feels
they-
weird. It
That's
feels like
all
illegal.
online now.
Yeah,
That's
just
what
build
I'm
it.
saying.
Just get a web scraper. Like,
Yeah,
Well-
literally Target updates their shit so often, it's insane. Like you just.
But I'm
web
wondering if
scrape
they
that
wanted
shit.
to do like mom and pop shops and stuff. So like you might have to travel like 60 miles for this job. So like I think they're like targeting certain stores. I don't know, man. I've not scheduled the interview because I'm like, I'm not sure I feel comfortable with this. Like I don't know what's going on
That
here,
sounds
man.
like bullshit, man.
I mean, it doesn't sound like there's anything explicitly illegal about it, right? There's
That would
no
make me
it's
yeah.
comfortable, though.
Yeah.
it's no different
guess-
than you going into a store and being like, okay, eggs are $4.50 a dozen, and I'm gonna write that down in a spreadsheet when I get back home so that I can like reference that. I don't know. I don't see it being any different.
I guess
than
what
that.
I'm worried about, I'm an anxious person. I'm worried that some worker is gonna come up to me like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because I'm gonna have like a fucking full ass scanner, dude. And you know,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to say? You know, and it's
I
like
think-
I'm not trying to get the people at the place in trouble. I'm not trying to get yelled at or yell at others. You know, like I'm pretty anti-corporation. The people in the store aren't setting the prices. You know, so it feels bad to like be in there and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you." You know. I don't know, man.
I think you got way better options out there, Jacob.
I agree. But it's the only job that's even me back. So it's like
That's almost sketchier, though, that they replied
Yeah.
that fast.
I
if you applied to
know.
it
I
that
know.
morning.
It's weird, man.
You just
It's
get a
weird.
job at Target. Like the actual store at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. So I'm applying. I applied to Jimmy John's to be a delivery driver. I applied to a hotel to work as a housekeeper. I'm looking for part-time shit, you know. So that's been a little bit weird and a little bit frustrating because I'm applying to like 2 or 3 jobs a day, and it's like I said, that's like the first job I've actually heard back from, and it's a super fucking sketch one.
What about remote jobs?
I haven't gotten into that whole arena yet because I feel like it's more competitive, and it's just I don't know. It's easier in the fact that it's remote and like I can apply to any remote job, but I'm not sure how many like part-time like temporary.
I
remote
bet you
jobs
could
there
get a
are.
part-time data entry job.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's I also kind of want to get out of my apartment.
That's fair.
Because this week I've been in my apartment the entire time, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Ooh,
god.
I need social contacts." And like, thankfully, Lissa and I hop on a Zoom call every morning, and we kind of like work simultaneously. So that's been nice. But I real like this end of this week. I mean, it's only Thursday, but I was like, "Oof, man!" Like, I'm feeling that. Like, I'm an introvert, and I like being by myself. And I like being in my apartment, but I feel like I need a little bit more interaction, and I think getting out of the house and going somewhere to work for a little bit wouldn't be the worst thing. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on part-time. And then the reason I'm doing a part-time job instead of full-time. So this is the other kind of whole half of this conversation and the kind of where I want to bring you guys in. So, you know, part of me leaving grad school was also me figuring out, what do I want to do? You know, I've done so many different things. It's pure jobs, right? I've worked like 8 different jobs. I've been a waiter in a restaurant. I've been on a manufacturing assembly line. I've been an engineer. I've been an admin assistant. I've done research now. Like, I've done a bunch of shit. None of it's hitting, right? And I was thinking about, like, you know, why did I leave engineering after Michigan Tech, and why am I leaving this now? And I think, and maybe Dayton, you can relate to this, because we had classes together. My idea of what the thing was going in was not what it was after I got there. And using materials engineering as an example, I chose that because I'm like, okay, materials engineering, it's going to be cool. We're going to design new materials that are going to, you know, fit a certain problem, and it's going to be like really cool and exciting. Get there, and we're just looking at metal alloys all day. And it's like, this makes more sense and is more realistic, but I wish I had a better sense of this before I started and picked this thing. And I remember like senior year material design class, which I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be the essence of the engineering, right? This is going to be, he's going to give us a problem and we're going to design the material to fit the, and Dane, you remember that class was a fucking joke. Like, it was so easy.
Well,
And
all right,
like,
so
just like formulas, and like, it was so like not what I wanted it to be.
I have a very different context for that class because I took it in my second year. So
Really? I took it with you.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, I took it in my second year because I had to, because I was studying abroad that semester that it was offered when I was supposed to be taking it.
Okay.
So yeah, that, I don't know, like I feel like they could have marketed it. It's not dishonest how they portrayed it. It's just not
Right.
wholly accurate.
Right.
So there are a lot of aspects that you could or a lot of things that you could do with our degree that weren't explicitly talked about in class. And I think they chose, the sexy things to talk about and to teach.
Yeah.
To market themselves.
And it is marketing, right? And it's the same thing happened in grad school. Like, I feel like now that I've been to grad school, the perception I had of grad school as an institution before going there was completely wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had the idea like, oh, you did good at undergrad, you'll be good at grad school. Not a lot of transferable skills. Like, it's a completely different skill set. You have to take classes still, but like doing independent research is like a totally different beast.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like, oh, you get to like pick your research project. Like, you work with your boss and like decide on a project. No, because there's the whole grant thing I talked about. You get assigned to a grant that's already been approved because there's funding for it, and you do that thing. And it's like, okay, I wish I would have known that. Like, I got there and I picked my lab based on what I thought was cool in the lab, but then my boss was like, oh, you're doing this project, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing that project. And like, I don't know, another pet peeve I have, which is just a me thing, I think, because no one else cares about it except for me. When you talk to grad students, it's like, oh yeah, this is my project, this is my research, this is my thing. I never felt comfortable saying my, because I didn't come up with the idea. My boss came up with the idea and submitted the grant. I'm just doing the work. I'm doing the man labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard. It was hard for me to say, oh yeah, this is my research, this is my project, because it wasn't my idea, So stuff like that, where it's like I didn't feel a lot of autonomy or ownership over what I was doing, and I had this idea of grad school. It's like, oh yeah, you go there, and if you're good at undergrad, you'll be totally fine, and you do your own research, and blah blah blah. Not what it was at all. Didn't even know about funding. Didn't know about this stuff, and it's like I wish I would have been told that stuff before I decided to go to grad school. I wish, like, when I had visited schools and toured them, they'd been more candid about like, here is how grad school works. So what I'm trying to get at here is like, I think the reason that the last two things I didn't work out is because my idea in my head of what I thought I would like wasn't what it was, and there's nothing left for me to like. So, all that being said, through therapy, talking to my therapist, he's also like a career counselor. He has certification for that, and talking about like what makes you happy. What do you think you're good at? All that kind of stuff. And as you guys know, I've been neck deep in video game industry news stuff for decade at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's never something I thought I could turn into a job. So it's like, it's a hobby. It's a thing for fun. There are people that do it for a job, but that's not me. It can't happen. But when I was challenged, like, well, if that's something that makes you happy, like, where's the space for you in that? And me really trying to think about that and dig into it, like, I feel like, and I hit about this as well in the year compass, but like, I feel like I'm finally ready to bet on myself and like take a shot at what the things that I enjoy and want to do. So the path that I think I can go down is being a video editor, specifically like editing for like YouTube and like short form content for myself, but also for like other creators, and help them edit their gaming content. Because there's a lot of people right now trying to make stuff on the internet because it's become so easy, and a lot of them need editors. And I think that there's an avenue there that I could fit into, and I feel confident in my, I'm not the most creative person in the world, but I'm confident in my technical ability, and the ideas I do have, I think are solid. So besides working part-time here, I'm also going to try to hone my editing skills for the next 2.5 months and try and, get faster, get more efficient, get better, get more creative, and just get a lot of practice in. So by the time I get back to Minnesota, I can maybe do an internship or maybe, find a company I can work with or do freelance or something, I'm not sure it'll be full-time immediately. Probably won't. I might work part-time or maybe just work an engineering job for a year to make some extra cash. I'm not sure what it's going to look like yet, but I want to bet on myself and see what I can do with like the ideas I have and, the things I actually have interested and care about. So I'm trying to build towards this kind of more ideal situation for myself. And I was curious for you guys, we talk about like our yearly goals for the year compass, but I'm wondering, do you guys have, when you guys think about the future, what do you think about? Like, is there an ideal life you're trying to build or get to, or are you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants? Like, I'm just curious, like, what are your more long-term goals that you're trying to achieve? So I'll go to Gabe first. Gabe, what do you think about when you think about the future?
Oh man. I don't know, man. I feel like I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess I've been working full time for over 3 years at this point. So I guess if you're doing the classic interview question of like where you see yourself in 5 years type of a deal, or like where I see myself later, it's hard because I feel like there are so many things just besides like career that like come to my mind. But at this point, even though it's only been like 3 years, it'd be such a massive undertaking for me to like even switch careers. At To me at this point, and I've said this multiple times on a podcast before, but like my outlook on work is like if I'm gonna be doing something for 8 to 9 hours or whatever it may be every day, I'm gonna end up not liking it. So to me, this is like a pretty decent middle ground where like I work in IT and like generally it's interesting enough to where like I'm decent enough at it and I don't hate it that it pays well enough for me to do a lot of stuff in my free time. And maybe that's a pessimistic outlook, but I am more or less like comfortable staying in like the field that I'm in. But that being said, yeah, I mean, I'll daydream about like switching careers or like, ooh, what if I made this into like a money stream or something? But I think like just the pessimist in me is more worried that I would put all the work into it and then be like, this isn't it either, you know? Because I've never been a person where, and I think most people aren't. I just think it's a lot of like what's being fed to us. But I feel like there's a lot of people who like, they're like, oh, I've always wanted to be a XYZ. I knew since I was out of the womb that I was gonna be a firefighter. You know, like I don't think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah. They make you think it should be though.
Yeah.
Like you watch like media, they're like, "Oh yeah, what's the thing you've been wanting to do your whole life?" It's like I don't fucking know. But it's weird though because like if you would ask me that last year, I'd be like, "I don't fucking know. I've never had a dream," you know. But after thinking about it more and talking about it in therapy, it's like, well, I have liked video games and this kind of content for a long time. I just never thought of myself it being in it, and when I so I agree with you. But maybe there's more than we, are.
I'm not telling you to like abandon your dreams. I'm
no,
not.
no, I know.
I know what it sounds like there, Gabe. I don't know.
Yeah, you're a piece of shit, Gabe.
I guess I'm just saying, like, to me, I'm a bit of a pessimist. And with all that being said, I think for the most part, I am kind of like flying by the seat of my pants because at this point, I'm 25, and there's still things that like catch my attention that I like to like play around with or like want to like see what that world is like, whether that be like a hobby or like I don't know, even like learning about like other jobs. It's just like interesting to me to like see them. Am I gonna switch careers or probably not, but am I gonna switch hobbies and see what it's like? Yeah, probably. I feel like I'm still very much in like enjoying like new stimulus and a lot of different stuff, but that's not very conducive to being able to live on my own comfortably.
And that's what's so frustrating. Is like America and just the world, I guess, we're not built to allow people to switch easily or try. They didn't just even try things out, I got on Dayton, I think, on the drive up to Winter Carnival. Like, I've been getting more into like rock music lately, and I was like, I wonder if I would be any good at playing the drums. But
I've
also
got
like,
a cajon if you want it.
but it's like there's no easy way to just like, I'm not gonna buy a drum set and try. It's like I can maybe go to a store and do lessons or something. But like, that's not like an easy thing to try. It feels like, and with career stuff, it's even worse.
Well, I think
Yeah.
the other issue though too is like, especially like I was talking about how like some people like I always knew I wanted to do this. I do think a lot of the people who do that, and I'm gonna use Formula One as an example because I've gotten into that a lot recently. Some of those drivers are like, I don't want to say forced, but they're like, you're gonna be a Formula One driver. Like since they're like 2, they're put in
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
in all the role, like all the classes, all the events they need to be into, and it's like, of course you're gonna find that to be your passion because you're fucking good at it because you started when you were 3.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah,
probably
and
haven't
you're
really
better-
done much else other than that.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
nothing else, like I think it's hard to say like putting all your eggs in one basket as like a passion thing versus like where I was never given a fucking computer terminal at 3,
Yeah.
for it to be like my life's passion. But at the same time, like I feel like I have the freedom to some degree to try things in my free time, but it's not
Yeah.
enough time, like you were saying, or money really to like switch careers off of. But
Right.
I
And
don't
like, I think about people. I mean, also up in New Zealand, because me and Dana both been there. People in New Zealand will often take gap years in between high school and college and kind of travel and go around and figure things out. That's not encouraged in America. In America, you finish high school and you go to college and you pick a major and you pick your life, what you're gonna do for your life when you're 18, and you're stuck there, right? Which is bullshit. Like, I just wish we encourage as a culture more experimentation and trying things out. And yeah, Gabe, they say you can do it in your hobbies, which is true, you can. But I just wish that we had that same energy with work. And but also at the same time, we're also saying like, do your hobbies, but also monetize your hobbies,
Mhm.
and arguably that's what I'm trying to do. But like,
I will say,
it's,
I fucking hate side hustle culture. Like,
Yeah.
there's such a push. I don't know who's pushing it. Big people.
Capitalism,
I don't
maybe.
know. Capitalism.
Big side hustle.
But I hate where they're like, oh, you kind of enjoy this, monetize it, make as much money as you can, lose the passion, drain it for money. Like, especially you see people on Instagram Reels or like TikTok or YouTube or whatever social media platform. I feel like you can tell they like genuinely cared about it for a while, and then their format changes to such a rigid thing because they found their niche.
Yeah.
It clicks, and it's like, are they really still passionate about that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But or did they just like it because now it's their full-time job and now it's a job to them again?
Yeah, it's hard, and I'm very conscious of that as I try to go into this and trying not prevent that from happening. But
Yeah.
it's kind of inevitable to some extent.
But Jacob,
At
it's
some
kind
point
of
it has to become work.
it's interesting though about like when you like complain about not being able to like swap jobs as easily, right? Or, like swap fields and be able to do different things. I think I talked about on the podcast actually this book that I read called Range. And it's very similar to that, how you can kind of think of, if you compare like a let's just say, like, because Gabe's already brought it up, like a Formula One driver, right? Where they've been in this program since they were born. This is all that they know. This is all that they have experience with. Yeah, they're going to be proficient with it at a very early age. But then if you compare them to like, say, like a job hopper or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that you can compare them to like the same things, right? Because like a job hopper just doesn't have the same skill set as like an F1 driver. But I'm saying in terms
They've
of
been
like
trained to
like-
hop jobs since they were able to walk.
That's right, yeah.
They've been switching
In-
careers since they've
in-
been out
in,
of
like-
diapers.
in the metaphorical sense, right?
Yeah.
How essentially like the person who's hyper specialized hits proficiency earlier, but then they plateau because they don't have a lot more experience to draw on for more abstract and more complex problem solving. But the people that have a lot of varied experiences with a lot of different things, when problems are super complex and they don't have a straightforward answer where it's just like, oh yeah, here I just need to, go faster, or I need to hit the brakes later or something like that, when they need to do like active problem solving and they have more avenues to attack it from, they generally do better. So it seems like it's some people realize that having varied experiences are worthwhile, but I don't know, I think it's something that might be slightly dying out with the older population.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I think too. Like, if we're going back to the Formula One example. Like, they were probably, like you said, they're master classes in like that role. But if you gave them like a complex problem that would be like a like, I don't know, multi content issue, I guess, they probably wouldn't do nearly as well as other people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the issue is that because society roles and jobs, I think, just get more and more specialized. Like, that's just how it happens. Like, I'm in a bigger company now, and every time it gets bigger, the roles get more and more and more narrow,
Mm-hmm.
and they reward people who like specialize or niche into some very specific pigeonhole thing, and they can do very well for themselves. But it's like, yeah, they only know like this one thing. They know it perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the way our culture is surrounded and the way it's going, that's super rewarding for them. But you give them a more general problem, I think they would struggle with it more.
But does it matter? Like, just to
I
get
mean, to
for
them, they probably make more money than like a generalist. I don't know.
because my thing is, when I'm talking about like more freedom to choose, I'm not necessarily saying that like everyone needs to do a variety of things. All I want is everyone to be able to do what they want and what they think will make them happy. Like, and they feel like they're able to make those choices or make those changes if need be. Like my biggest fear with doing this whole thing is like money. Like, like for many years now, whenever I go home for like the holidays, my dad will be like, "Man, like you're really into like games and movies. Like, you ever think about doing like a career in that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've thought about it. I can't make money doing it though. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
super competitive. And I just immediately dismissed it. 'Cause I'm like, just because of the money.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm doing more effort and I'm gonna try some things and I'm more confident now. But I just want people to be able to do what they want and be able to live. And there's many times I've been very like have anxious episodes where I'm just like, is this gonna work? Am I gonna be able to live the way I want to live my life, or am I gonna be, you know, trapped to doing something I don't want to do because that's the only way I can make money? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see. I'm very privileged in my position of, my family is supportive and all this stuff, so I have it better than most. But yeah, I just want people to feel like they have the freedom to do what they want and be still able to eat and live in a decent apartment and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think that's just unfortunately not the reality of it. I mean, what you're describing, I think, is what a lot of people use as the argument for like universal basic income, which
Mm-hmm.
is like something that's becoming more and more of a topic. But,
God, I want it so bad.
there's definitely like fields that are rewarded way more than others because I mean, think of like STEM topics, like those pay way more than like art, but like I don't know, who's to say that one person's more passionate about the other, you know?
Right.
So I feel like it's almost kind of like, it kind of sucks if you're like have an affinity towards something that pays like shit because it's like you really do love it and you do want to use it, but if you can't have a good living off of it, they have to come up with this like question of like, is it worth it?
Yeah. Do I have to do a side hustle now to
Right.
supplement my income and all that?
Yeah. Where that discourse never happened in my head because like I said, I didn't really have like a thing. I was like, I'm kind of good at this and it pays super well, so
Yeah.
that's why I went into it. Not purely out of passion, which it is a shame, but it's just not how the world be.
Yeah. Joseph, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind?
I don't know. 5 years is a long way away. I'm gonna be 31 then.
Oh
Ugh.
God, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
At 30s.
5 years ago, I probably didn't think I'd be working in a bike shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think where would I want to be? I think it'd be cool to stay within the bike industry, but maybe moving more towards like design and like actually working at like a bike manufacturing and like design company,
Yeah.
rather than just a repair shop type thing. But who's to say? Like, I really enjoy it, and depending on how like right now, it's not very lucrative to own and run an outdoor store, but maybe in the future, in 5 years, it will become more lucrative as um, local shops and mom and pop shops start I don't know, maybe they'll make a resurgence after Amazon collapses, fingers crossed. You know, but I don't know, it's such a big
It's a
what
long
if.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
5 years is a long time.
yeah. Well, I want to be clear too, and when I'm asking you guys these questions, I'm not saying you all need to change your life and do the thing you're passionate about like me. I'm not at all what I'm just curious if you guys have dreams of actually I do want to get to this place and I want to maybe try these steps or work towards a certain thing.
I do think in the next 5 years, I'm probably going to move out of Minnesota.
Damn.
I don't know where, but hopefully, maybe not Michigan.
Is that coming from a weather standpoint or just I'm just curious, what's driving your thought there?
Partially weather. I'm getting I liked UP winters. I don't like central winters.
Yeah.
Northern
Again,
central
suck
winters.
ass, yeah.
It's just cold. We were talking about snowfall totals the other day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, California has 6 inches or 600 inches of a base on their ski hills. You know, this place in Montana has over 300-inch base. We've had 75 inches of snow this year in the Twin Cities, and our yearly average is 50. And I mean, that was a week ago. We had this conversation. It's probably snowed another foot-ish, maybe. A lot of it's melted since then.
It rained for half the day, and then it started snowing. So
yeah, it's super cool. And then it gets super hot in the summers. It's the worst of both worlds.
That's what makes it cheap, though.
Because no one wants to live there.
Yeah.
It scares people away. Yeah, there's definitely people who don't move here because they hear how bad the winters are. It's yeah, that's true. Keep my rent down. Don't move here.
Rent's still pretty expensive. It's not cheap.
Okay, but if you're talking about California, yeah, they have 500 inches, but what's the rent there?
Yeah, I'm not saying LA specifically or San Francisco, but
that's worse.
I know that, but I am sure there are communities where I could live cheaper.
Yeah.
Anyway, partially weather, partially I'd like to live outside of the Midwest just to get a different.
Go to Connecticut. It's really good.
I have thought about Maine.
Vermont slaps. I love Vermont and New Hampshire. I think they're awesome.
I've thought about
Maine.
Virginia.
Don't go to
Lower
Virginia.
Appalachians.
Don't go to Virginia.
Virginia area, North Carolina. I don't know.
No, not even a shot.
I'm not these aren't
Sorry.
My
sorry, Joseph. Here. Let me put it more clearly. You're wrong.
Dayton, we can't be killing Joseph's dreams. If he wants to go to Virginia, he can go to Virginia.
Bro,
it's not
all right. Better book a return flight too.
But that's my point. I've never been.
He's never been
to Virginia.
Know. Yeah.
I don't know. There's plenty of places I haven't been. Maybe I want to live in some of those places. I don't know. I'm not closing the book on a whole lot of places yet, except Michigan. Unless my family asks, then I'm not. Then I have no comment.
Would you live in the UP though?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I live in the UP too. It's fucking gorgeous up there.
I don't know if I could anymore.
Just no jobs, but
yeah.
I don't know. I've been there a lot lately, and it feels different when there isn't all you guys around. It's a lot more depressing.
Yeah.
I've been there. I'll be there 6 times in the last year, I think, by the time this December's over. And it just doesn't hit the same. You know?
Yeah. I feel you. Dayton, are you working towards anything long term? You told me before that you hate stagnation.
I think he's
Yeah.
going to be the mayor of Whitehall, or at least a city council member. That's my
That's probably
guess.
what he's gonna do.
I don't
He
know.
just
I
wants
mean,
to
like,
write like a couple laws.
I have like, I would call them like grand ideas where like it's nowhere near in the future, but I want them to happen eventually. One is that like I do want to own some form of like property.
That's a good joke.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't really know how to like word it. I think I want current me, right? This is a relatively recent thing. Is like I want to be able to like impact my community, I think. And I think that's part of the reason why I want to join, or why I want to start participating more in like all like these city councils, is because I know from what I've seen in all the places that I've lived and all the places that I've visited that Whitehall can do so much more with what they have. And I would love to see them do it in the right way, or at least what I deem in the right way, right? Versus
Dayton's where the highway, people.
versus
It'll be called Dayton Hall by the time you're done with it.
And not see it, fall to the classic blunders that I've seen in a lot of different other places that I've lived in. I don't know, and like for me, like career, it needs to be enjoyable for me, and it needs to be, some aspects of it need to be challenging. I don't need to be challenged all the time in my job, because I feel like in that case, then it means that I'm working over like 40 hours a week, and I hate the idea of working over 40 hours a week on a regular basis. If it comes to it, like, yeah, I'll do it, but it's not something that I'm looking to do all the time. I view it kind of similar to Gabe. Like, as long as it pays the bills and as long as I'm not hating myself or hating what I'm doing, then it's all right. Like, I have enough things that I do outside of work that keep me more than busy, that I don't need to worry about being understimulated. Yeah, I think that's, I don't have any like concrete things. So
yeah,
I feel though like what you were saying about, like you were just talking about like wanting to be more into your community and how that was like a recent thing that you realized. I think that's like such a hard thing for me, and I think maybe for you too, where it's like hard to think those 5-10 years in the future, because like even in the last couple of years, I mean, there's been a lot of things that all of a sudden have grabbed my interest that I would have not even batted an eye at, at a previous point in my life. So it's hard to like have big long-term goals that aren't like pay off my loans, be happy, like very like generic ones. But like, I don't know. I think sometimes it's kind of fun, like just to have like a thing. Like Dayton just like found that interesting, and he's like, I'm gonna run with it and see where it goes. And who knows? Maybe he will be the mayor. Maybe he'll burn out in a week after he learns the history is fucking boring. I don't know. But like, I think half the excitement of it is being able to try it. So it can become a long-term goal, but you don't really. I feel like a lot of long-term goals you aren't. Besides, like I was saying, like those basic necessity ones, they're hard to define without like having a spark of inspiration or like an event where it's like, ooh, this is something I could, work towards,
Right. Yeah, and that's what I just experienced recently, right? And that's why I'm bringing it up on the podcast. Like, therapy has been so much more helpful than I thought it would be, and that's maybe surprised someone who talks about mental health a lot and like therapy, like how much I advocate for therapy. But like, this most recent therapist I've had is the first therapist I've had that I've actually felt a difference from. Like, he's my fourth therapist I've ever had, and like, he's the only one that's really challenged me and forced me to like kind of look inward and be like, no, we're gonna like figure this shit out, Whereas previous therapists kind of just like, you go in and you talk about how you're feeling in your past, week or few weeks, whatever. And I'm not saying that that was bad for everyone. That would be bad for everyone. Just for me, I guess I needed more of a hand on the wheel besides mine. I was like, hey, no, we're gonna get you where you're gonna go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very thankful for that. And, like the biggest, like Gabe, you kind of just alluded to, like my long-term goal is to be happy. The question is, how do I get there? Like, what steps do I take to get there, and what do I think will you know, be the ingredients to make that happen? And like, I'm hoping that being in a line of work that I'm more passionate about and I care more about will help. Because like every job I've had, there's like, I feel like there's a timer. It's like a 1 year timer. After a year, I'm not doing it anymore. Like I just can't motivate myself to do anything unless I have some skin in the game. And I'm hoping with this new kind of path I do, because like thankfully with editing, like Dayton, you were saying, like there's always ways to get better. There's always new skills to learn. There's always something else to kind of improve upon. So I think that's like good for just always trying to improve. But yeah, like the things that have helped me the most recently, and maybe will help someone else out there listening, and be very clear, I'm not trying to give advice to everyone. These are what work for me. That might work for you. There's things my therapist said to me. He might not have said them to you. So just be very clear. I don't want to come off, like I'm a guru or anything like that. But things that helped me were finally realizing that, like, and this is so stupid because it's so obvious, but like, it is my life. I am in charge of my own life. I decide what I want to do, which again sounds so freaking obvious. But like, I've recently realized that my entire life I've just been doing what the most quote unquote correct thing is, or what the expectation was. Yeah, you go to high school and then you go to college and you get a nice job and then you get married and you have a family and all that. Not to say that's like inherently bad or anything, but I thought there was no other option. I thought that's the correct choice. And when I got to the end of undergrad, I was like, oh, I'm scared. Grad school, that'll give me some more time to not be in the real world, and it was just a band-aid, right? But now that I've realized, like, I can do whatever I want. I have to make enough money to live, but like I can do pretty much whatever I want, right? And that's helped me a ton. Another thing that my therapist says to me a lot is, the person that knows me best is myself. The person that knows all of you best is yourself, right? Anyone can try to give you advice or tell you what they think is what you should do or what's best for you. And yeah, you can choose to take that advice or leave it. At the end of the day, you're the only person who knows who you are. So you're the only person who knows what's best for you. And I think for a lot of my life, I often, again, search for what's the correct answer. Who's the person to ask? Who's the expert? And I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to experts. You very much should. But now when I look at things, I'm like, okay. I look up at things like, okay, this is this person's opinion based on their experience. Do I accept that, or do I reject it for myself? As opposed to, oh yeah, they said that thing confidently, I'll take it. And because it's comforting to be like, oh, this person's confident, seems smart, I'll just do what they say. But at the end of the day, you have to make your own decisions, or I have to make my own decisions. And I'm trying to be better about like choosing the advice that I take and leave. And the last thing that he just told me recently in our last session that I'm trying to remember right now, because I'm feeling very uncomfortable still. Like I'm happy I left grad school, but like in this current kind of limbo state, I'm still finding my feet. But one thing he said to me that helped give me kind of confidence, like, just because the path you're walking hasn't been tread before, and just because you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean you're going the wrong way. It's just, you're gonna have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And I feel confident enough in myself that I can get to where I want to go. So I'm trying to be okay with being uncomfortable for a bit, because I don't know if I'll, with this, I mean, maybe I will at some point. With the career path I'm going down, I'm not sure I'll ever have stability. If I become like a freelance editor, it's going to be a job to job, client to client thing, and I think for a long time, I really crave stability, right? 'Cause it's less certainty, less anxiety. But if this is the way that I think I'm going to be happy, I might not be able to have as much stability as I previously would have wanted. And I think, right now I'm going to go with that. And if it becomes too much, then maybe I'll switch to something that's more stable. But I'm just trying to be comfortable in the uncomfortableness, which is a new thing for me. I think before I would have just been like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, or I'm bad at a thing, I'm bouncing out. I'm just trying something else. So anyway, whole long monologue and all that. But anything else you guys want to mention before we end here? Anything else that you're working towards, or you're, I don't know, uncomfortable with, or maybe you want to try that you haven't felt like you're able to?
Speaking of uncomfortable, I finally started the pack raft, heat sealing it. My God, was that nerve-wracking.
You don't have to start on the actual material. You can use scraps to teach yourself.
I did. No, I did. I
Oh,
used
okay.
scraps, but I've been using scraps for a while, but I was like, okay, I can't test it because the way that you like can test to make sure that it's sealed properly is you rip it apart. And so then it's kind of done. So I made the first seams and I was like, all right, I think I did a good job, but they clearly know what it's like to make something like that and then have to put trust into it. I haven't had to put trust into it yet, but
you've seen how mine handles.
Yeah. So
it leaks a little bit. Still to be found, but
So it's like you mentioning that, this made me think of just like, when I think of just like uncomfortableness, do you guys remember the first time you built a computer and you plop the CPU in and then you have to like bring the lever down and you're like, am I destroying it? Am I breaking the CPU in half? That's how I'm feeling right now. And maybe you're feeling too, Joseph, when you're doing the pack craft. It's like, am I breaking this thing, or is it gonna, like, once it clicks, like, okay, we're okay.
Or unplugging, is it the 24 pin connector? 12
from your
or 24 pin? Yeah, from your motherboard, and it just does not want to release, and the thing's bending, and you're like, this is probably fine.
Or the RAM won't go all the way in. You're like, just fucking get in there, please.
Oh, that's getting ridden.
Gabe's built enough computer, he doesn't feel that anymore, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just took a laptop apart today. Still got it.
He still got the moves.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is our show for this week. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. As I mentioned, we're posting episodes every other Monday morning on podcast services and YouTube. Check us out on Twitch as well. That's ewf_podcast there, where we record live on Thursday nights, and we also play games on Thursday nights, so come and check us out there. But until next time, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.